What's up, Lions fans? The Detroit Lions are exploring options for a new edge rusher as we approach the trade deadline, with head coach Dan Campbell hinting that GM Brad Holmes is looking at some big names. It's clear they're taking this seriously. But before we jump into today's news, be sure to click that like button to stay up to date on every move and rumor surrounding our Detroit Lions. Interesting trade talk has surfaced that could add some serious muscle to our defensive line. One new name has emerged as a potential target: Khalil Mack. There have been rumors around the league that the Lions could send a 2025 fourth-round pick and a 2025 seventh-round pick to the Los Angeles Chargers in exchange for Mack. Now, let's break down what that could mean for our team. On paper, a 33-year-old pass rusher might seem like a risky move. But here's the thing, Mack still has it. He currently ranks as Pro Football Focus third-best edge defender this season, and his run defense grade is second-best in the league at 92.1. He's been generating a lot of pressure, with 22 pressures this season, including 10 in the last 2 games alone. While he hasn't recorded a sack since Week 3, he's still a force to be reckoned with on the Chargers line. So why would the Chargers consider letting him go? The answer lies in his record. At 3-3, the Chargers are at a crossroads. They're right on the line between competing for the playoffs and potentially shifting into a more sell-now mode to gain assets for the future. Plus, Khalil Mack's contract, which was initially quite hefty, has become much more manageable after a restructure in March. His base salary for this year is now just $1.255 million, meaning the Lions, or any other team interested in him, would only have to pay him a prorated portion of that for the remainder of the season. For a player of Mack's caliber, this is a deal that's hard to ignore. Let's talk about the impact this would have on the Lions' defense. With Aiden Hutchinson out, there's a big need for an experienced, disruptive edge rusher, and Khalil Mack could fill that void perfectly. This guy is an 8-time Pro Bowler, and while his age may raise some questions, his performance this season proves that he's still capable of dominating on the edge. Bringing in a veteran like Mack could also be great for our younger players on defense, providing guidance and helping set the tone for the rest of the season. And let's be real, adding Mack to our roster would strike some fear into the offensive lines we'll be facing. Now, of course, there are always pros and cons to any trade. The cons here are pretty straightforward. Mack is 33 years old, so he's not exactly a long-term solution. However, he still brings that edge presence we've been missing and gives us depth that could help push the Lions over the edge as we look toward the playoffs. And 2 late-round picks for a short-term investment could be worth it if he helps solidify our defense and take us to the next level this season. This is where it gets interesting. The Lions did look at Mack as a trade target during the 2024 offseason, but at that time, his contract was a major hurdle. With that issue resolved and his salary now much more affordable, it could be the perfect time for the Lions to make a move. And even though Mack is in the twilight of his career, his skill set and experience could be exactly what the Lions need to keep our playoff hopes alive and well. So, Lions fans, it's your turn. Do you think bringing in Khalil Mack is the right move? Would you give up these late-round picks for an experienced edge rusher who is still delivering at a high level of play? Or do you think we should look for a younger, longer-term solution? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, here's the lowdown. The Detroit Lions just released their injury designations, and it looks like we'll be without defensive lineman Josh Paschal for this game against the Titans. Paschal was listed with an illness, but there's actually a deeper story here. This week, he revealed that something came up during his annual cancer screening that sidelined him. Paschal battled malignant melanoma on his right foot in 2018, which took him out of football for a year. He assured the media that his cancer hasn't returned, but mentioned that it has more to do with his strength and that he hopes to be back next week. So while it's tough to lose him for this week's game, we're sending good vibes for a speedy recovery. This absence leaves our edge rushing lineup a little thin. With Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, Derek Barnes, and John Kaminsky all on injured reserve, Paschal's absence adds to the pressure. Head coach Dan Campbell and the team are looking at a by-committee approach to filling those holes. That means we'll likely see more players like James Houston and Isaiah Thomas, who was just signed off the Bengals practice squad. We could also see game day elevations for guys like Alquadin Muhammad and Isaac Ukwu. Additionally, Levi Amuzarike, who has been splitting his snaps between inside and outside, could shift to outside more often, and rookie Mekhi Wingo could also see more snaps on the edge. We also got an update on rookie guard Christian Mahogany, who has been coming up big in practice while on the non-football injury list. His evaluation window is still open, and he's ineligible for this week, but Campbell mentioned that a decision on moving him to the active roster will be made after this week's game. Campbell sounded positive, saying that Mahogany has been making steady progress each week. The Lions do have an open roster spot on the 53-man roster, but with the need to shore up the edge rusher position, they may have to juggle roster spots carefully next week. Now, on the bright side, a handful of our starters are good to go despite being listed for rest or minor injuries earlier in the week. Left tackle Taylor Decker, left guard Graham Glasgow, center Frank Ragnow, and defensive lineman Levi Amuzarike are all set to play, while right guard Kevin Zeitler, who's been dealing with a groin injury, is also cleared. Getting Zeitler back will be a big boost for our offensive line, as he'll bring some much-needed physicality to match up with the Titans' defensive front. This is going to be especially important as we look to establish the run game and give Jared Goff solid protection in the pocket. Switching gears to the Titans' injury report, they've got some key players who are out, including starting cornerback L'Jarius Sneed and offensive tackle Jalen Duncan. Their quarterback Will Levis, who's been dealing with a shoulder injury, is listed as questionable, but he isn't expected to start. A couple of other notable Titans, like running back Tyjae Spears and defensive tackle Tvondre Sweat, are also questionable. This could affect how the Titans' offense and defense shape up, giving the Lions some potential advantages if these key players aren't able to play at full capacity. Now, let's take a quick moment for a fun story from Lions practice. On Fridays, the Lions like to kick things off with a drill called Fat and Go, where offensive linemen and skill players alike run takeoff routes and catch passes. It's a lighthearted way to start practice and lets the guys loosen up a bit before diving into red zone and third down drills. Last week, right tackle Penei Sewell even threw a pass, which caught the attention of offensive line coach Hank Fraley, who joked that Sewell could one day add pass completion to his NFL summary. The coaches love adding a bit of fun to keep the players engaged, and Fraley said the drill lets the linemen show off their hands, though he did admit that some of them are clappers who might need to work on catching. Looking ahead, there's a lot to consider as the Lions face off with the Titans. Injuries have certainly reshaped our lineup, but the team has shown resilience all season. The adjustments in depth that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are creating could make all the difference. And with Mahogany's possible return and the Lions' open roster spot, we might see some changes next week that could help us keep pushing forward in the season. Alright, Lions fans, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Pascal's absence this week? Do you think our by-committee edge rusher strategy will hold up against the Titans? And what do you think about Mahogany's progress? Would you bring him onto the active roster, or would you rather see that slot used to help out the defensive side? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Go Lions!